for people at home, we are live, which is super exciting. Oh, there we are. Much better. So, doing this a little different than we normally do. Firstly, I guess I should probably start with the normal intro. Welcome to the Dark Death Podcast, your go-to place for the modern and legacy formats. I'm one of your hosts, Billy Mitchell, and I am alone today. Normally, I am here with the Hound of Conda himself, Michael Mapson, but Michael has a pet that is in need of help. He had to go to the vet kind of last minute, and between my schedule and his schedule, it's hard to get a date already. So we kind of just decided that we were going to try to find something else, and it was hard for me to find something last minute. So instead, I'm just gonna talk to myself kind of live, and hopefully we get some people coming in, listening on the chat, and trying to contribute and asking questions and things like that. So if you are interested in chatting, obviously just jump in, say something. I would love to be able to hear from people. So once again, normally this is not something that we do, so this is going to be a little bit different. So we are just going to go through the normal show as much as possible, and if we get some listener questions, we will definitely do that. I am going to take a second to make sure that we reach out to people on the YouTube and on the Twitter. If you haven't done this already, and you probably have heard this a billion times, especially if you're an avid listener of the show, but we do have the Dark Death Podcast on Twitter. If you're interested in supporting us in really any way possible, you can find all of our links there, so you can support us on YouTube, obviously, where this is going to go up. We don't normally do this, but I thought it'd be fun, especially since I'm not playing music right now. You can listen to us on YouTube. You can find us basically wherever you listen to podcasts, all that fun stuff. So we're going to send a little message out on Twitter. I'm lonely and live. Please send help. Great. All right. So with that out of the way, do the normal intro that we normally do. What's going on? Honestly, it's been kind of a whirlwind of the week. I just started a new job, which has been a lot. Between the 1 month old, I think she turns 1 month on Saturday, maybe Sunday. Between that and trying to, learn a new position. It's not that it's a different position. I'm still teaching, right? But as far as teachers go, you get into this rhythm of teaching the same classes year after year. I've been teaching basically every math class except for the two that I'm teaching now. So it's been a lot of preparation, trying to relearn different techniques, things like that. The age group is good, though. I mean, I'm working with sophomores, and I've worked with sophomores more or less over my 6 years. I think four of my 6, maybe it's 3 of my 6, but I do always like sophomores, I think, and I have a couple of freshmen, a couple juniors mixed in too. So it's definitely a good group of kids. Really enjoy the school. The culture is definitely different. Not in a bad way either. It's just the school I was at was very kind of uptight, and wore uniforms, and people were, why are you out of the hall? What are you doing? And this school, they're just not in the hallways. They're just kind of, if they are in the hallways, they're just quietly doing work. They're milling around. They come in a little bit late, but they don't abuse coming in late. It's actually I was talking to this guidance counselor. I was with this teacher. I was finishing this quiz, and seems to check out. So so far I'm really enjoying the school. I'm really, really happy I made the switch. Definitely a big scary thing, switching from job to job, especially in the middle of a pandemic. I had this fear. The person I was replacing left on, or decided to retire. He had hit his 35-year mark and was going to retire with a full pension. Didn't really want to stick out the rest of the school year. Definitely understand that. I think a lot of the older teachers transitioning into a hybrid classroom, asking them to maximize their usage of technology, it was a big ask. I think it's a big ask for anybody, but it's especially been a big ask this year. So I don't blame anybody for wanting to get out as soon as you can. Not this year, at least. So, anyways, but I was afraid he was last minute to be like, you know what? I don't want to leave. and then I look, oh gosh, and I'm like out of a job already, and like that'd be a nightmare. But thankfully, don't have to worry about that at all. So outside of that, I've actually just been playing a lot of leagues. I played a lot of Modern, obviously. Talking about the Ragavans, I had picked up the playset of Ragavan, even though the band in Legacy. I've been playing them in Modern and just like having so much fun just playing Griffith's Shadow. Like that is definitely just the deck that I could just keep playing, and I have it in paper at this point. I've got a bunch of cards in. If once again, if you are watching this on YouTube, you can see I've got a stack of cards that have come in this week. And if you notice, actually, some of them are not even Pioneer or Legacy stuff. Some of them are Pioneer stuff. I got some Drown in the Locks to finish up playing my Modern deck, but I picked up Hall of the Storm Giants. I've picked up Considers, Mystical Disputes, River Glide Pathways. I've been playing a lot of Pioneer this week as well. And if you listen back a couple episodes, you would have heard that Dave Inglis was talking about the Pioneer format and decks that really kind of stood out to him, decks that were really cool and very powerful. The two that he kind of brought up were two decks that I was actually considering myself. One of them was the like Jund food deck, right? You get to play Corvold, and you get to play like Witch Oven, which is super annoying to play against in paper, but very powerful deck. Playing that with one of my choices. The other one of the ones that you're a big fan of right now was the I actually just played against it like a couple minutes ago, but it was the Jeskai Ascendancy deck, which you end up comboing through with Sylvan Awakening, making a bunch of mana, making a bunch of very large creatures, and then overrunning your opponent. That deck is insane, but that's like not really my style. Like in EDH, don't get me wrong, that's something I would definitely play in EDH, but in paper, it's too many triggers. I miss a lot of stuff. Like Dredge is kind of my upper limit of triggers. In my personal opinion. So, I decided to play Phoenix instead, actually. And you really do get to play a kind of a blue-red tempo control game with like a combo finish. And one of the cards that really kind of makes that even more combo-y is the fact you get to play Galvanic Iteration, which if you haven't seen Galvanic Iteration, I'm actually going to pull it up. This is actually really exciting, too, because normally I don't do episodes like this. So I actually get to just like pull up whatever card I'm talking about, and you can just see it in real life if you're watching this on YouTube later, or if you're watching this live. We do have some people in the chat, so once again, hello if you're here. But Galvanic Iteration is this really neat 2-mana card. It allows you to copy the next instant or sorcery you play. Make a copy. You can choose new targets as flashback as well. So you're able to mill it and make copies. But the number of times I've just gone Galvanic Iteration and then cast Temporal Tempest for 3 mana and end up getting some crazy Time Warp, like double Time Warp. I guess that's Time Stretch, really. And just like killed my opponent in the air over 3 turns with a couple Phoenixes is like way too high. Like the deck ended up just being like this really kind of crazy combo deck in a lot of ways, and I've just been having a lot of fun with it. Like 4-1 a bunch of leagues. I haven't gotten a 5-0 yet. I like never get 5-0s. I feel like it's absurd. Like I feel like I should have gotten a 5-0 at some point. And like it's always like 4-0. Let's just win the last one, and then I'm like, oh, this is a good matchup, and I get crushed. So hopefully I break that curse relatively soon, but we'll see. So playing with the Phoenix deck in Pioneer, playing with the Griffith's Shadow deck in Modern, it's been, I think, really enjoyable for me at least. Alright, well, let's talk about something that's actually relevant. I think everything's relevant, but I want to talk about Legacy, because I think Legacy is in this really interesting position where we haven't seen a lot of, we're waiting for the next shoe to drop, like what's new with the format, what is going to change. Ragavan leaving, in my mind, should have created this huge vacuum, but Ragavan was just a very good card, right, in a deck that in a lot of ways didn't really need it. I think Delver always is really powerful because it has threats that have some kind of resiliency to it. And I think when you look at the threats historically that it plays, obviously Delver Secrets, right? It's a 1-mana flyer, right? 3/2 flyer. It's a fast clock. It can win the game pretty effectively. Definitely Deathrite Shaman obviously can allow you to win without actually going into combat. I actually had a match on camera somewhere. But I played against like a white Eldrazi deck, and they had Worship, and I was like, man, I got you to 1. I wonder how I can win this game. It's like, oh, I can just Deathray Shaman you. You're dead. We got there. So Deathray Shaman, and like even like looking at like the more modern threats, obviously, having something like Young Pyromancer that allows you to go wide, so point removal isn't as effective. Something like Trinian Nemesis that just can't be targeted by your opponent, and even something like the Murktide Regent, which I also picked up a couple copies of. I got my showcase versions. Ends up getting you something that is, very, very good at just closing out the game. So when we are looking at cards that have been really powerful, really effective in the deck, right, they usually do have some sort of evasion or some ability to kind of dodge removal. And I think the two big exceptions to that kind of rule are the two most recent cards that got banned from the deck, right? We had Ragavan, and we also had Dreadhorde Arcanist. Arcanist was actually, originally at least, came out in a format where people were playing Forked Bolt, so making it 3 toughness was actually really nice, at least for the first couple weeks. But honestly, that card is such a huge mana advantage in terms of actually just card advantage, mana advantage, in terms of just recasting Ponders and things like that from the graveyard. Like, I don't really care if it's a fragile threat in any capacity, right? And obviously the metagame you saw adapted to start playing obviously play set of lightning bolts, but also started playing things like the chain lightning, right, to make sure that it can get off the board effectively. With Ragavan, right, it doesn't have any sort of evasion, but the big thing it does have is it had dash, right? So you were able to get around things like Prismatic Ending, but it doesn't get around all of the removal that you care about in the format, right? Source of Plowshare, opposing lightning bolts, unholy heat now. Like, you have a lot of things you had to go up against. So losing Ragavan, obviously a bummer, right? Ragavan's such a powerful card. If it connects, allows you to really just snowball an advantage by building up resources from your opponent, building up a mana advantage, being able to cast something like a Force of Negation, actually hard cast without losing cards. And honestly, the fact that your opponents are always playing blue decks and you can just cast their cards made it a lot easier too. But, it doesn't really fit into the strategy. So when you take Ragavan out of the deck, there's not really a loss in efficiency, right? The deck had cut 2 Delvers, right? So you get to, by cutting those 4, you get to put in some more evasive threats. But also we saw, we're actually going to take a look at this now, but we end up seeing that a lot of the decks end up transitioning into something that's a little bit more broad, a little more effective overall. So looking at the challenge, I'll shout out to Lunil, who is a patron of ours, a really big fan. This is like, by the way, just hot take. I don't even think it's even a hot take, actually. I think Lunil is just like one of the best players in Legacy. And I said that about JR. JR has been on a hot streak as well. I think JR is one of the most consistent players. But I think between him and Lunil, they're just like constantly crushing. So just awesome job, Jason. So this is the deck that actually won. And just 80 card taxes, right? We've been seeing Urian being the front man for this deck for a very, very long time. And this is just a very effective deck. I still love the Timeless Dragon. Like, that's one of those cards that, like, I'm still shocked sees play, and like I have them kind of boxed off somewhere. They're like not, it's 40 cents, right? It's not like it's a huge card, but like it ends up playing this huge effect, being able to plane cycle early, being able to actually just get a 5/5 dragon or 4/4 dragon for 4 mana, super huge. And once again, the flying there I think is really relevant, especially in a metagame where DRC is still in my mind at least, a premier threat coming out of Delver. Also Delver Secrets being a 3/2, like having this creature is I think very, very good. So and then I also like the package. I mean, you have Shadow Spear, which is a card that comes in and out of the deck, I think. Jite, Battle Skull, Culture Complete. So pretty standard stuff. Nothing super spicy here. But I think having the 4 Spirit of the Labyrinth deck is just like such a good place to be. And I think Death and Taxes is really interesting too, because I keep seeing people just win events with this deck, right? Like it's not like it's one of those decks that we see it in challenges occasionally here and there, right? It's a top 8 here, top 8 there. But, like, whenever we have these showcase challenges or these showcase qualifiers, things like that, I feel like Death and Taxes always ends up being a finalist at least. And I think a lot of times recently it's just been winning. So this is, I think, one of those decks that when we start looking at those larger events and people decide, I'm going to buckle down, this is the event, I'm going to play Delver, I'm going to be serious this time. They just get, like, chewed out by these people, like Jason Murray, who, like, knows what they're doing in the matchup and is not going to lose to somebody who's just picked up Delver 2 weeks ago. And I think, especially the way that Magic Online is kind of set up, a lot of people get in these positions where they don't really play the format that much, but they end up having enough QPs that they can play in one of these big events, and then, once again, that's what happens. So, definitely great job and very interesting. I just like the fact that this deck is in the metagame. Like, there was a point where Death and Taxes was, like, unplayable, and we've definitely gone way back from that. So I'm, happy with that overall. Let's jump back, though, if I can make it back. There we go. We were talking about Blue-Red Delver before, and I want to look at the two different lists here. So one is by Number Squats, and one is by Max Magister. Interesting names for sure. So the decks have basically, the Blue-Red Delver decks at this point have the same basic core, right? We're seeing Delver Secret, Dragon Rage Channeler, Murktide Regent, Brainstorms, Lightning Bolt, Ponders, Daze, Expressive Iteration, Force of Will. Like those 12, 20, 36 cards, right? They're basically just the same in every deck. And like if we look at this deck, same thing, right? Same thing. And I have seen some people playing 3 Murktide Regents instead of 4. I just think the card is so effective that I would much rather have 4 in my deck because I want to make sure I can draw it. If you don't need it, you get to pitch it to Force of Will, right? Like the deck does such a good job of finding cards that, like, I understand the inclination to want 3, but like there's very little downside. You have enough spells in your deck that you can just enough spells, lands, things like that go into your graveyard that, like, fueling it is not going to be an issue. Like, I'd rather just have access to as many as possible, and if I don't need it, I'll get rid of it. I can Brainstorm one away. Not a big deal. I can tuck it with the Expressive Iteration. I can exile with Expressive Iteration. Who cares? But I'd rather have the full 4 there. Looking at the lands too, Namor Squash is closer on board to what I've been doing. I like playing 19 lands over 18. I think one of the things you start seeing when you start adding or replacing Ragavan, which is a 1-mana card that makes tokens and does all this, fun stuff with your opponent, right, is the fact that it puts you into this false sense where 18 lands is sufficient, right? Because typically you can get to 2 mana a Ragavan, it connects once or twice, and that's going to be able to, connect you from Ponder to Brainstorm, and you can find that 3rd land, and you're not really worried about it. Well, that's not a thing that's happening anymore, right? Like, we can't actually depend on that card, or at least have that extra buffer. So we can't keep playing 18 lands reliably, at least. Number Squats ended up going up to 19, which I think allows you to play better cards. Talking about the flex spots, I was saying before, like, you have those 36 cards or so, and, added lands. It's like 5 or 6 cards you can put in. Brazen Borrower, I think, is a really good one. Green White Depth is one of the bigger decks on the rise, and we are going to look at Osmandius's data that he collected. I think it's just really interesting. He did a really good job there. But Brazen Borrower is a 2-mana threat up, 2-mana cost up front, 3-mana cost on the back end. Like, you need lands for that. It's not free. If you're talking about something like Vapor Snag, for example, which I think is not a card that people have been discussing, but I think is warranted at least. I think Vapor Snagging an opposing Murktide Regent, being able to Vapor Snag, you can actually even Vapor Snag your own Brazen Borrower if you want to, but being able to Vapor Snag opposing Merit Liges and cards such as Knight of the Reliquary, I think that's really important. I think that actually adds a lot of value. And once again, it is something that's aggressive that allows you to punch through a lot easier. So that's something that I think people might want to consider. It's not a card that's been being discussed very much. But if you're going to play something like this, these 3-mana threats, one of the ones I've been really pushing for is Shrine Nemesis, just because I do think it's so good in the mirror, and it's really good in those matchups, like it clogged up on the ground, Elves, Death and Taxes, for example. But you need to start supporting that with 19 lands. The other thing I really like, too, is the main deck Pyroblast, and that's another card people are like, well, I don't really need it anymore, right? Like, how popular is Delver going to be? Very popular, apparently. Like, the deck still had 2 in this top 8, and if we look at this here, or sorry, it's 4 in the top 8? Yeah, or 3 in the top 8, 2nd, 5th, 7th, and then 9th, 13th, 15th. Like, that's almost half the top 8 is just blue-red Delver. So, I feel like playing that Pyroblast is probably a good call, and even if it's not tagging Murktide Regent, which I think is currently the best threat in the format, I think it closes out the game the fastest, besides Merit Lage, obviously. Merit Lage does probably a better job, being in 2020. But I think if you're worried about, how effective is this, like, versus Delver obviously is very good, sure, but it's still tagging Uro. It's still getting rid of threats like opposing expressive iterations. It's still tagging an unprepared person who is trying to jam a Thassa's Oracle. Like, even like tagging an opposing Ponder is like not the worst thing in the world. So I think having the main deck Pyroblast is just like kind of a free roll if you're playing Delver, especially if you're playing the version that is playing Young Pyromancer, right? And they actually do have one here. Because you can just, once again, the nice thing between Pyroblast and Red Elemental Blast, if you Pyroblast something, you don't have to counter it. It doesn't have to be blue. You can target a land. If it's not blue, it doesn't destroy it. Okay. But you still get the trigger with it. So I think that, especially if you're playing Young Pyromancer, it's definitely just a free roll, and that's something you should definitely be consider playing main deck. But I just think there's so many blue decks in this. Looking at it, right, obviously Death and Taxes doesn't play blue, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Arcan's playing Reanimator. Depending on the version, a lot of them aren't playing blue right now. We'll check Arcan's list real quick. Yeah, Echoing Truth on the board. I don't think you'd probably keep it in here, right? But I think overall, I'm very happy if 6 of the top 8 decks are playing blue, as a core color, having that in my deck. And once again, going further down the list, it doesn't get embarrassing. The big ones you miss on are Death and Taxes, Reanimator, and lands. So, and Elves, of course. I think Elves is another one that I think has been doing very well recently. So, I'm very interested in just keeping Pyroblast in my deck. I know some people are in the chat, so if you want to say anything, if you have any questions, please let me know, and we can definitely answer them. And once again, this is a live recording of the Dark Depths podcast. You go to play for the modern legacy format. I'm going to put this onto YouTube, and it's also going to be on our normal stream, so our normal podcast, so you can listen to it there. So, in addition to those changes in Delver, I mean, everything else is pretty stock. The thing I'm still kind of personally debating, and I think if you're looking at number squads versus Max Magister's list, is the inclusion of Mishra's Bauble. And I know the big argument people have had is like, how difficult is it to turn on my Dragonite Channeler without having that artifact? Like, you're playing creatures, you're playing instants and sorceries, you have the artifact and you have the land, right? And without playing the Mishra's Bauble, you really just need to have one of each. Like, how reliably am I going to get a creature in the graveyard? The land, I think, is free. You play enough fetch lands, that shouldn't be an issue. The sorcery can sometimes be difficult. If you're looking at, depending on what your removal suite is, people have been playing Chain Lightning or Unholy Heat, and I think that's another thing that Nemersquats versus Magister were playing. Magister playing 2 Unholy Heats, and Nemersquats was playing 1 Chain Lightning, right? So there is a little bit of attention there. But if you're not playing Chain Lightning, well, if you are playing Chain Lightning, we'll say, you've got the 1 Chain Lightning, you've got 4 Ponders, you've got 4 Expressive Iterations. They're eventually going to get into the graveyard, right? But it's not that many targets. It's not that many things. You have 13 creatures. So, and like, it's easier to get a Ponder in the graveyard in my mind than it is to get a Murktide Regent. But I don't think that's true, actually, because I think if you have a Murktide Regent, it's either going to be a 2-mana 6/6 or 7/7, or it's going to get countered. And if it gets countered, then you have a creature in the graveyard. I think a lot of times where people are thinking about this stuff, it's like, well, I mean, I can't put it in the graveyard. So, well, Dragonrage Chandler just lets you surveil things. You can just put a Delver Secrets in the graveyard. Like, you can also just assume that your opponent is going to try to kill your Delver Secrets. They're not going to let you just, like, have a Delver Secret for free. So, I think that people have been kind of overestimating how difficult it is to get surveil. I haven't had any issues hitting Delirium while playing Dragonrage Chandler without playing Baubles. You can definitely play it, right? But I don't think that should be a major consideration when you're going through it. Like, I won't hit Delirium otherwise. Like, no, you will. Your opponent will murder your creatures. That's the nice thing about Magic. I'm very confident my opponent does not want me to have creatures in play attacking them every turn. So that's the one thing I'm kind of, looking over, but I'm not really hot about Mishra's Bauble right now. And the sideboards you're seeing are pretty much, I think, in flux. We're seeing some cards in the hostilities. Meltdowns, I think, has been fairly popular. I love Court of Cunning. That's one of my favorite cards in the format right now. Some number of surgical extractions. But I think the deck is still in such a great position. And if you're looking at the results of this showcase, like, the deck did very, very well. So I think that's something that people should be aware of. The other one I want to make sure we at least see is the Reanimator. Just because Reanimator has been... I mean, Arkin ended up being a top 8. Like, Arkin doing well in a challenge is not super shocking, right? A very good player. The deck ended up doing kind of poorly overall, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But, I mean, the deck is just still so consistent. And, if we're looking at... Go back to Delver sideboards real quick. You do see some cards, the Grafdigger's Cage, the Surgical Extractions, plenty of counter magic, obviously. I think a Grafdigger's Cage and 2 Surgicals, it feels like it should be enough, and then you actually play against the games and you still just get rocked. The one thing, I to be fair, it's something I heard and I think is just a great idea. Playing something like Torment Script might be better. But I really do like playing something like Cage right now. I'm not a huge Torment Script fan. In decks I can't recur it, but I do like the idea of playing the Cage. So that is something that you might want to consider. There was a Hogak deck that ended up doing kind of well too. So maybe that's something that you want to cover both of those matchups. Going a little bit off this, I want to talk about Ozymandias did a data breakdown of the Showcase Challenge, and I wanted to just make sure we looked at this too, just because I do think it's just interesting. So, a lot of players, firstly, which I think is awesome. The most popular deck was Blue-Red Delver. Not shocked. Right? I think it's going to take a lot of work to get people off that deck, and that deck is just really powerful. A lot of people have the cards already. They're going to keep playing it. But it's almost a fifth of the people, right? It's 19.82%, which is a lot of people. It also had one of the better win percentages, but not the best win percentage, which I think is also interesting. The other most popular decks here are Jeskai Control, which we have seen variations of this. When they say Jeskai Control, it's usually not just straight up Jeskai Control. We've seen a lot of the Hull Breacher kind of wheel decks, which to be fair, is a control deck, right? This is one by Mazinda Linda, I think. And you're seeing a lot of those typical wheel patterns here, right? You're seeing Hull Breacher, you're seeing Narset. I pair that up with Days Undoing, and you're able to get rid of your opponent's hand, either not let them draw any cards, or, well, I guess in both cases, not let them draw any cards, but also get a mana advantage if you're playing that with Hull Breacher. Teferi makes it actually really nice where you can cast Days Undoing on their turn, so that way they don't draw any cards at all, but also you get a huge mana advantage. If you're lucky, you can actually hit another Days Undoing off that first Days Undoing, and you can just generate a ton of mana, which is insane. So, very cool card. Once again, this deck is a really good control deck in a lot of ways. You're playing Snapcaster Mage here. You're playing a Made-Up Flusterstorm, which I think is really, really cool. but also having the 3 prismatic endings, the 4 Swords of Plowshares. Like, this deck lined up on paper looks like it should be very good versus what you're doing in Delver. I think it's even pretty good against something like Green-White Depths. In my mind, at least, it should be. Just because you are playing a lot of things that can bounce the creature pretty effectively. Snapcaster Mage rebuying Swords of Plowshare, I think, is really meaningful. But in my mind, this deck is also very slow. Like, it just doesn't close out games particularly well. Obviously, you getting Mind Twisted and them having your opponent having 7 cards is usually going to lead to you losing. But depending on the board state, especially with lands, you can put yourself in a position where you are okay. So, this is one of those decks that I think is pretty solid, but I think it does require a really tight play. And we have seen a lot of people pick it up who are capable of doing that, but it's not a guaranteed deck. I always feel like Delver has a lot more ability to just win you a game just because of the power level of the deck. And you see that a lot with something like Reanimator too, where people can just pick up the deck, have a huge game, and win. I don't think Jeskai, that Hull Breacher Shell is one of those kinds of decks. Decent win percentage. I had 51%, not insane. Reanimator was the 3rd most popular deck. We talked about that one a little bit ago. 44% win percentage, not fantastic. 4-color control, which is a little bit more. And actually, Osmandius actually played that himself. I'll pull up his list. And once again, you're still doing some Days Undoing stuff, but you're not leaning into it as hard. Like, you are playing Narset, so you're playing Hull Breachers, you have the 1 Days Undoing. This is just a better control deck. You're actually playing Uro as opposed to the Jeskai list. And it actually allows you to develop a game. I think Endurance also is very good in this format, especially versus Delver, being a 3/4 blocker. Versus Reanimator, being able to actually just make them pick up their graveyard and go take their ball and go home, I think is huge. So, especially actually, and I think this is super cute at least. If they go for Exhume, you get to Endurance and pay the evoke cost, shuffle their graveyard back, your Endurance dies, and then they pick it back up for you from the Exhume, and that's insane. So that's definitely a card that I think is really, really neat, especially in this deck, but I think it's just good for Legacy in general. I think it's good to have more interaction for the graveyard decks, even though it has not allowed me to play my Hogak deck in a very long time, but I will manage. So, Endurance is definitely a card that makes this deck really powerful, I think, in this format. Also just having the combination of Sylvan Library and Uro, that's just, so many cards. So, this deck is definitely super powerful as well. And that had a 48% win percentage, which I'm not sure why. It's one of those decks on paper that looks like one of the most powerful things you can be doing, and the fact it didn't do well gives me pause. The 5th most popular deck, though, was Death and Taxes, which obviously ended up winning the event and having a win percentage of almost 62%, which is actually bananas. So, looking at the win percentages, Death and Taxes was the top deck, followed by Green-White Depths, which I'm not sure about. I'm not super confident in that number, just because it's only 3 people. When it's the least, out of the decks listed here, it's the least popular deck, and I'm sure there's obviously some other decks probably below it, right? But those 3 people doing well with that deck does not make me feel super confident about the deck. Not yet, at least. There's some other stuff that does make me feel a little bit worse about it. I know Mapson probably is disappointed by that, but he's not here, so I get to say that. Looking at past that, you do see Elves, you see Lands, and then Blue Red Delver, 55%. So, pretty good win percentages out of those. Obviously, I think being able to win 61% off 11 players, I think is insane for Death and Taxes. 55% off of 43, I think is also insane. They were talking before about the win percentage of Delver, especially, in these higher events. And it was, I think they were saying it's 55 or 56%, and that's still kind of where we're at. Which also kind of begs my question, how much actually changed here? Because I feel like this is the same thing we just saw a second ago. Like, Delver's just a very powerful deck. Taking away Ragavan, which didn't really mesh with the strategy anyways, doesn't really hurt the deck. It just makes it a little less dynamic, which I think is fine. So, decks that did really, really poorly. Doomsday, which is, like, surprising. Doomsday was, like, my kind of pick to do really, really well. Just because I thought that Delver being weakened by removing Ragavan specifically, like, it once again, in the Eternal Weekend win, right, the games I actually played versus Doomsday, I just cast turn 1 Ragavan and attacked, and then I drew their discard spells, or I drew their combo pieces, and I killed them. Like, that's just all that happened. So, when we're talking about decks that are going to do well, like, I kind of would assume that, like, getting rid of Ragavan just relieves a lot of pressure off of Doomsday, and the deck would be able to do a lot better. I think a lot of people just came prepared to not lose to Doomsday, though. Like, I think people kind of expected that was a deck that they need to be worried about, and had the Flusterstorms, and had the Torpor Orbs and things like that, so they would not lose to Doomsday, and I think that negatively affects the numbers. I do think in the future we're going to see those numbers rise, but in the meantime, the other one I was kind of shocked by was Urian Zenith, like the blue Zenith decks we've been seeing. That just got, like, rolled, and I thought that had a good Delver matchup, and I mean, it does, which is also a thing we'll talk about in a second, but overall, it does not seem to get super well positioned in this format if that's what's going to happen. Even if 20% of your matches is Delver, and that's a good matchup, like, you can't really afford to have a 25% win percentage. It's kind of unacceptable. So, the thing I want to point out, and it's kind of in small print here, I want to try to blow this up so we can see this a little better. I'm not sure if this is how the internet works, unfortunately, so maybe I can't do this. No, I can't do this. So, oh, I can. There we go. There's the business. Oh, nope, we lost it. We had it. We lost it. Let's go while I lost it. That's fine. So, the one thing I do want to point out, I think that's important, is that when we're talking about... Did it actually work? Did it? I don't know. This is like... Enhance. Okay, it's slightly better. I don't know. People at home, you guys can just hear this perfectly fine, so it doesn't really matter. Asmodeus also went and broke down the win percentage against Delver, which I think is an interesting statistic. And obviously, it's important data. Like, it's something I do want to see, but it also kind of puts you in a position where you feel like you should be able to, like, if the numbers don't change or you're not happy with them, it makes you feel a little bit angry about the numbers, which I'm not a huge fan of. Looking at the win percentage against Delver, Death and Taxes, in my mind, should have done really well. It only won a third of its matches. I don't know how many. Once again, I don't know how big the sample size is here. I don't know how many matches that is. It could be 3 matches. It could be, 15. I have no idea. But 33% is not particularly great. Also, the fact that it is 33% makes me feel like it probably is like 1 out of 3 matches or 2 out of 6 matches, something like that. Because once again, the further you go up the chain, what are the odds that it's exactly 1/3? Could be wrong though. Green White Depths also did horribly, 22% versus Blue Red Delver. That's also just not great. Which is interesting too, just because, like, if you're looking at the decks, Blue Red Delver is the most popular deck. You figure that it would just be chewing up on Delver the whole day, but, like, that was not the case. Like, that was the deck I was trying to dodge all day, so that's not great. And I think historically more recently it's been better. It could be a thing with the pilots, who knows? But it also could be just the fact that when you start looking at threats coming out of the Delver deck, once they start getting diversified, it kind of does affect you. Once again, Ragavan wasn't an issue, right? Because you could hit Green White Depths and you could hit a Dark Depths, but you can't cast, so that's great. Or you can hit maybe a Knight of the Reliquary, which is a great creature. And if you get it in play, that's fine too. But, like, it doesn't come to play that often. The activations aren't really insane. Like, you really want to be hitting versus blue decks, and the fact of the Green White deck, Ragavan was not really great there. I definitely have cast my fair claim of Elvish Reclaimer, so just to have a 3/4 beatdown, but that's not really the card you're going for. So by removing this card that doesn't really affect your matchup, I think that does hurt the Green White Depth matchup. Just because you are putting in cards like, Young Pyromancer is not the greatest, right? But something like Brazen Borrower, that's Mapson's Bane, just being able to Petty Theft and then be able to block later on Dark Depth is not great. Also, even putting something like Trina Nemesis in the deck, I think is really good. I have seen people also playing Dead Gone as a flex spot instead of something like Gutshot, which doesn't do really much. Gutshot can obviously tie something like Sylvan Safekeeper in the deck, but like a Dead Gone is just like insane, and Gutshot is was something that the Green White Depth was very happy to see the opponent have. The decks that did do well though, Jeskai Control, right? The Hullbreacher wheel deck, which kind of makes sense, right? Like playing main deck Hullbreacher and Narset, I think puts you in a good spot. Post board might be a little harder, but if you can win game one pretty reliably, I think you can probably grind out those matches. So that's what we end up seeing in a decent amount. The other ones too, Doomsday actually had a really good win percentage, but I feel like that could not have been a huge sample size. Maybe it was. This is at 80%, so maybe it's 4-1 or 8-2. But that's kind of surprising. The Blue Zenith deck at 85%, and that's the thing about the deck that's kind of brutal. Like, the win percentage was 25% overall, but it was 85% against Delver. So like, hopefully the deck figures out what it needs to fix, because like, if you're going to beat Delver 85% of the time, I'm very interested in playing that deck. But yeah, we haven't seen any idea yet. So lands did well versus Delver, 66%. That's not surprising though. Like, historically, that deck is kind of a beatdown. When you start looking at replacements, once again, I think if you start adding more 1/1 Delvers and 3/2 Insectile Aberrations to the deck, that does not help your chances. So I think that's can be a concern. Jeskai Delver, I think the point of playing Jeskai Delver, and we saw this before with Stainerson was starting to do this a couple of months ago, but like, just playing more removal spells that get rid of Murktide Reach in the matchup, I think is just correct. And by playing Swords of Plowshare, you just have that in spades. If you really want to, you can sideboard the Path to Exile too, and you have more ways to get rid of a Murktide Region. So I think that's a huge, I don't want to say game changer, right? But like, if you are trying to specifically attack that deck, that might be something you want to do. Jeskai Delver overall didn't have a great win percentage though either, right? It's 41%. So even if you are winning, 83% of your matches, is that really good enough if you're only winning 40 or 83% of your matches versus Delver, Blue-Red Delver? Like, I don't know if that's interesting if I'm only going to win 41% of my matches overall. So, yeah, that's basically all that for that data. Blue-Red Delver was just the best performing deck though, and I don't think that's surprising to really anybody. But the deck's not going anywhere. Like, you really have to be aware of that. Oh my gosh, it's still blowing up. I need to back up here. You need to be prepared for that deck. It has not gone away. It's not gone anywhere. And I think when you start looking at other decks in the format, like, there's really nowhere else to go, right? Like, they did a good job, and I think, once again, I think Ragavan might have been a little bit too far of a push. I get that, but the deck was not good because of Ragavan only, right? That was just the card that was the most unfair, the most, arguably the most pushed, but it was definitely a card that people needed to respect, and now that it's gone, I think people just don't know what to do, because knowing that your opponent's going to be playing this 2-1 Ragavan informs a lot of your decisions. I need to have a turn 1 removal spell. Well, if I don't have Ragavan, like I have a Dragon Rage Channeler or Delver Secrets instead, well, I don't mind having a turn 1 removal spell. So if your opponent's always going to mulligan with that kind of mantra in mind, I don't know what you're playing, but I can't lose to Ragavan on turn 1. I need a turn 1 removal spell. I can't keep, turn 2 Sylvan Library path. It's not good enough. And they mulligan to something a little more aggressively, that negatively hurts you. Now that it's gone, I think people don't understand the mulliganing heuristics and what they need to be doing in those early turns, and that's going to punish them, I think, in the short term. Once again, some of these decks that are a little bit more, I'm trying to think of the right word, in a better position to actually deal with those early threats, are going to be just better off. And we do see that with the Jeskai deck that has a lot of those removal spells early, that they're not going to die, right? They already have the Prismatic Endings, the Swords to Plowshares. Like, they're prepared for the turn 1 creatures. They have the counter magic to stop anything kind of nonsensical. Even something like Reanimator doesn't have the removal spells, but has enough discard and things like that where, like, you're not going to get just got by Reanimator, or, as a Reanimator player, you're not going to get got very often. So, okay. So, yeah, that's basically it for that. We do have some people in chat, so once again, if you guys have any questions, any comments for this live episode of the Dark Depths podcast, please let me know, and I can answer them on the air. Yeah. Once again, overall, I'm pretty happy with this Legacy format, though. I think they've really done a good job, and I know they were saying that they're open to more bans if need be, but I'm hoping they don't. Just because I think that the format itself was not fun, and I think for right now, it's at least people are interested in what's going on. Once again, it doesn't have to be super insane, right? But I think people having a format that is at least entertaining to them, I think, is meaningful. The other event I want to talk about a little bit was the Buffalo Chicken Dip Legacy that was in Columbus, Ohio at Comic Town. By the way, I so want to go to Comic Town. A podcast I used to listen to all the time. I love that podcast. They were all from Comic Town, so they would come and I would see them at SCGs and GPs and things like that, which was super cool. I got to play Love Letter with them, which is a super fun game. I actually bought Love Letter so I could play with them next time I saw them, but I haven't seen them in years at this point. But the Buffalo Chicken Dip Legacy event happened last week, and it had 64 players, which was their cap, and they had a waiting list, which I think is really cool. They actually posted all 64 of the decks, and there's just a lot of really cool people who showed up here, just going through. Roland Chang, looking at, I saw Ryan Hayes, Brian Koval, Joe Dyer, right? So a lot of really cool people playing a lot of really cool decks. Very upsetting I couldn't go. So if you are from the Buffalo Chicken Dip Legacy community, if you have one in the summer, I will 100% go. I just had a baby. Now, once again, not me personally, but my wife. So I cannot go right now. It seems that is not a good idea for me. So, but if you have one during the summer, I will make an effort. I will be there. But now it's just unfortunately not a good time. But it seems like a good community too, and I think having these local events that are large and enticing. I think first place got I want to say Gaia's Cradle. I think it was Gaia's Cradle, and I want to say it was a Badlands or Savannahs, I think, to the top, second and third, fourth. So, ended up getting some really cool prizes, and also it was 100% proxy friendly, right? Which I think is also really cool. So, not only do you allow people who don't normally play the format to actually get in and get a chance to play, and also win some power, or not some power, but some reserve list cards if they do really well, but you also get people who are local who just want to play Magic, and maybe might have sold their collection over the pandemic, which I think is something we haven't really talked about too much. But people who haven't really played lately into your store again, playing Magic and having fun with friends. I think if that's not the point of Magic, then I don't know what is. So, overall, I think it's a really cool event. One by Gruel Painter, and it is mostly red. I think whenever you talk about Painter, you kind of being disingenuous if you say it's not just red. I mean, we've seen blue-black Painter before and stuff like that, but it's normally just a red deck. And you see Goblin Welder, Goblin Engineer. Cards I thought were really cool were Magmatic Channeler. which if anything, this card is really neat. It's essentially a 1/3 that if you have 4 more instants or sorceries in your graveyard, it becomes a 4/4. But it allows you to discard cards, and then you get to look at the top cards of your library to cast one of them, exile one of them, and cast it. It is actually play it too, so you can actually get lands. I've done that limited, which is super sweet. Has the one Sundering Titan, so you can start looping it with your Goblin Welder, which is brutal when that happens. But like really nice when you talk about like these 3-color and 4-color decks, right? Being able to Sundering Titan and just like hit like a Tundra, a Volk, a Savannah, like, and then also like a basic, like it's insane. So that's really good. The reason it's listed as Scroll Painter is because it's playing for Once Upon a Time in the main deck, which I feel like I'm missing something with that card. Like, it's very good. Don't get me wrong. Like, it hits a creature or land, so it hits all those creatures. Like Goblin Welder in turn 1, I think is great. You can hit Painter Servant, which is awesome. It doesn't hit Grindstone, which is not a huge deal, but it does hit your soul lands. Like, you can hit Ancient Tomb, you can hit City of Trader, so I assuming that's what you want it for. It also hits Ursa Saga, which I think is cool early. Like I played that Red Black Asmo deck before, and being able to go turn 1 Saga, turn 2 Ancient Tomb, activate, and make a construct on turn 2, I think is a really powerful play, and that's something that deck actually opens up. And Once Upon a Time allows you to do that a little bit more reliably. So maybe that is something that you want to consider. And also the other thing with that line in particular with this deck, the being able to go turn 1 Saga, turn 2 Ancient Tomb, is that you can just like wait to cast your Once Upon a Time until you get something that you really want. So, or you can use it to find one of those cards. So, really interesting overall. We'll see how this deck ends up doing. This definitely seems like something Mapson would play, so I'm sure he will jump on this at some point. The green in the sideboard ends up just giving you Carpet of Flowers, which I think is a good addition as well. Just having more mana versus blue decks, I think is pretty nice. Especially if you can just slam a Blood Moon post board. Not actually Blood Moon, but Magus of the Moon rather. I think that's also another pretty big thing for you to be able to do. I do like the Pyrokinesis. We were talking before about this, like, why would you just not play Fury? Fury's so much better, which I think Fury overall is better, but you gotta kind of think of the context. Like, I'm not really playing Pyrokinesis as a way to control the board. I'm playing it as a way not to die. And I think Pyrokinesis being an instant is really, really good versus elves. Like, specifically elves. I think that's really where you want it. Death and Taxes 2 is also very good. Like, I don't want to discount that, but I think you not dying to elves on their combo turn, Pyrokinesis is definitely just better. You can definitely, as an elf player, navigate around a Fury a little bit easier, even if it is still kind of backbreaking. So there's that. A couple other really cool decks. We did see a copy of, I don't know why I blew this up in this different window. We did see a copy of Food Chain, which another Mapson classic in my mind at least. Food Chain is just one of those decks too. Like, I haven't seen it personally in a while, but I think the deck is really, really neat. Has really intricate lines. Rewards you for knowledge of the format. We ended up seeing Carl Schultz, who I think actually followed me on Twitter recently, use this deck and ended up making top 4, which is insane. This deck I think is actually really cool too, because you get to do a lot of stupid stuff with like a lot of like large mana combos. I'm talking about just obviously the Food Chain, Mist Hollow Griffin, or Eternal Scourge, casting it, exiling it, making infinite creature mana, and then casting a giant Walking Ballista. Like, that is very much up my alley. I love me a giant Walking Ballista. But also, you're playing the Ranger Captain of Eos, which I think is actually really cool, just as a way to find your Walking Ballista late. I think that's really neat. I do like Uro in this deck as well. I think that's really neat. I still think the Manipulate Fate thing is so cute. Just like, yeah, I'm going to find 3 Miss Hollow Griffins, and they're all exiled. Like, that's also really cool. So that deck did pretty well. There was another one I wanted to talk about. In second place, it was a green-white depth. There we go. This is another one I think that did pretty well. Just seeing someone do well with depth, I think is good. This is like fairly stocked from what I'm seeing too. Like you're playing the one Dryad Arbor, you have like the Sylvan Safekeeper. I think the one Endurance in the mid deck is really nice. The same thing with the Knight of Autumn. I just think there's enough people playing stuff that needs to be blown up with Knight of Autumn that it's just a worthy inclusion. You know, whether they're playing their own Sylvan Library, whether they're playing Urza Saga, whether they're playing that kind of oddball Carpet Flowers, you know, in their main deck. Like having access to a Knight of Autumn is, I think, just good. I mean, obviously this deck doesn't really care about Carpet Flowers, but still, just a good card, I think, in this metagame. There's a lot of artifacts and enchantments running around. But you are actually playing in this version, playing Urza Saga, right? So that actually allows you to find Shadow Spear for yourself, find Pithing Needle, which I think actually does really double duty. The Urza Saga obviously does create a secondary threat. You are playing Reanimator Excavator, so you can actually just return it and just keep cycling it and hopefully kill your opponent with Urza Saga's constructs. But I also think just having access to Pithing Needle, so you can just find a way to protect your lands from Wasteland, I think is also really, really good, especially when you're just doing that in the main deck. I think it's a really, really smart way of protecting your cards. I'm always amazed when I look at this deck too, and you're like, oh yeah, this deck is 4 mythics, 50 rares. I'm like, how are there 50 rares in this? Like, back in my day, there were uncommons in decks. Like, there's still 11 uncommons, but wild. But yeah, I think Green White Depths is another deck. Pretty good. The other one too I thought was just really neat was the Sneak and Show list. Just I feel like I haven't seen Sneak and Show nearly as much as I would have hoped. Neat deck, just has not popped up. So, looking at that list, pretty standard. Nothing's really changed. I think that's part of the issue too. Like, Sneak and Show in my mind is in the same boat as Reanimator, where it's doing a lot of things by putting a giant creature into play and Gristlebrand, Emrakul, whatever. Great, but like, it just. I feel like you can win a lot more games just by killing your opponent, and this deck obviously does do it, but just not like with the brutal efficiency that Reanimator does, right? Reanimator could put a Gristlebrand into play on turn 1 and make you essentially discard your hand. Huge. This is being able to put an Omniscience into play on turn 1, right? It's a possibility for sure, right? Lotus Petal, Soul Land, Sneak, Show and Tell, Omniscience, cast Gristlebrand, draw 7 cards, Emrakul, here's 22, let's go. But like, it also just doesn't happen, I feel like, with the efficiency that it used to. So definitely an interesting deck. The one thing I do like about it though is it does have a good sideboard, especially for Dozen Taxes. Obviously that's historically one of its more difficult matchups. So you end up seeing Kozilek's Return, you end up seeing Torpor Orbs, you end up seeing Pyroclasms, you end up seeing Abrades. You got a lot of stuff there for that matchup in particular. Okay, cool. Once again, just me today, so Michael is MIA. So I'm going to wrap up with the Dark Depths podcast here. If you are interested in finding us or listening to us at all, please listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts. We're basically everywhere. We are everywhere. But we do a lot of things on Twitter, things like that. If you want to find us on Twitter, we do have us at depth_podcast. So you can find our link tree there, so you can support us in any way you want to. Honestly, just telling your friends and listening to our show is huge and does a great job for us. Magic with ZB, I definitely missed you. Thanks for following the stream. And that's another thing too. If you are listening right now and you enjoy what we're talking about, if you think you actually really do like Modern and Legacy, or you just like my beautiful voice, you can actually just follow us on Twitch. That way, whenever we go live, you can know, which is also helpful. Once again, following us on Twitter does a really good job. Me, myself, I'm Bad Luck Bandit. Michael Mapson is Expedition Map. So both of us do a lot of Modern and Legacy, and I'm actually going to play Pioneer in like 5 minutes. So if you want to watch me play Pioneer, you're more than welcome to stay tuned for that. But yeah, that's basically it. And once again, thank you for hanging out. So for people who are listening to this on their podcast, I guess I'll see you next week. All right, bye. Which means people at home, I'm going to keep playing Magic. Bum, bum, bum. Okay, so now I'm done with the podcast part, I am actually going to change some stuff. Let me see. How do I do this? I still constantly, like, when streaming, I'm getting better. I am getting better. I'm gonna posit that. I'm getting to the point where, like, I understand where the buttons go and, like, what I'm supposed to be doing. Whether I do it effectively is a whole other story. That's a whole nightmare. But I'm getting better at just doing the whole streaming thing. I do need to, like, start moving files and stuff off my computer, because this is the computer that we do all the episodes of recordings on, most of them at least. I think Mapson has like 3 or 4 episodes on his computer, but like all the other 70 are on mine. So finishing a Pioneer Phoenix League. Cool. We'll change that. There we go. But yeah, we're gonna play a little. Finish playing Phoenix, and once again, I've just been I bought this deck on Magic Online. I think this deck is so much fun. It's been doing pretty well for me, which has been really cool. You end up getting like a lot of really crazy games under your belt, where like you just like randomly put in like 10 power, or 9 power off of Phoenixes, and like time walk your opponent, and like they cry a little bit, which is like real sweet. I've only had like 3 people sawed off on me though, which is like, I feel like the number should be higher, but it's not a big deal. I don't really mind. But overall, I think the deck is really well positioned Pioneer. It's just really powerful. So let's actually see what happens here. Once again, this whole, like, I can't keep this. This is like double Phoenix is nice, obviously, but like you have no way to discard them. Like a Lightning Axe or a Chart the Course here would be wondrous, but this hand's just really, really slow. This looks much better. We'll keep this. I already have Charter Course. I probably don't need a Charter Course and Lightning Axe, but I can actually cast Charter Course early. I think we'll put back an Iteration. I like Iteration a lot, but I think it's good to have 1 discard spell and then 1 not discard spell. We're going to play this on turn 1, just because if I don't draw a second land, I can't cast a creature or a spell on turn 2. Probably casting either Thing in the Ice or Charter Course. It depends. Right? It depends on what happens, but one of those two. We're probably playing the Mirror, because they have Hull, the Storm Giants. Other decks do play it, but this is the most common one. So we're just going to play Thing in the Ice. Go from there. Our Lightning Axe is really good, just because it does take out an opposing Thing in the Ice, if that's what they decide to do. I don't know. Okay, so they're playing probably Blue-White Control. Playing the Hollow Fountain there. I do need to be worried about Censor. So, something just to keep in mind. I kind of want to play Expressive Iteration here, but I also don't want to have to worry about... Like, I want to be able to hit the land. So maybe look at the top 3. I don't know. We'll play Charter Course. I could play a second Phoenix, too. Like, that's an option. If they have Censor here, they're going to Censor. And I'd rather get the Blue-White. Veto. Ooh, jeez. Okay, so I was not resolving either way. That's fine. Okay, so there's that. They had their land drop. I did not. not great. But I should be able to hopefully find... I mean, they might have... Yeah, another lightning axe, not what I want. So now I kind of wish I had the second expressive iteration, but like you don't know you're going to draw another axe here. You don't know you're going to be playing against blue-white. Probably, yep, absorb. Makes sense. Maybe it would have been better if I just jammed Thing in the Ice there. If I was like fairly confident it was going to get countered. They're going to cast Consider. So I have one thing I can discard. If I end up having like a draw spell, like a 1 mana draw spell, I can cast Lightning Axe on the Thing in the Ice. Okay. Alright. I could just discard by hand to get Thing in the Ice and attack, but like that seems loose at best. So let's just cast Thing in the Ice here. For the record, I'm not opposed to it. I will do it. This card's gonna be nothing to me. I will murder my own Thing in the Ice. But I want to get the idea is to get it flipped, right? So if I can go Lightning Axe to flip it and not murder it, that makes it at least playable. I think like if I draw like Preordain here, or I guess any draw spell. Okay, that's pretty good. I don't think this is gonna resolve. But if it doesn't resolve, I'm just going to Lightning Axe my thing. Oh, resolved. Okay, I get a land. Yeah. And like I said, I'm going to discard a card, target my Thing in the Ice. Discard this Lightning Axe. It's going to cause my creature to flip, so it will not die. As a 0/4, it's going to be a 7/8 with 3 damage or 5 damage on it, which is not a big deal. And this puts them on a 3-turn clock, assuming this actually gets to get in. Like, they have 5 cards in hand. There's a good chance that this is not good enough here. But if they give me something like a... yeah, they have a mid-deck Zorius Charm. Super annoying. Okay. Yeah, like, they're bound to have something, right? Like, it's been a little bit. Cycle, Irrigated Farmland. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to just pieces of the puzzle, try to hit a ponder or something like that, and go from there. Put in the Thing in the Ice back on the top. It's like, it feels brutal, but it doesn't, it's not as bad, I think, as people give it credit for, because, like, you can very easily flip things back over. This matchup also really interesting, I think, just because, like, they have a lot of things. Like, they have, like, Narset. Oh, Jigsaw Time's so good. They do have things like Narset, which are really good, like, on both sides. But, like, they do have things like Dig Through Time. I do have things like Pieces of the Puzzle and Expressive Iteration. Like, we don't really draw that many cards, surprisingly. D-Sphere, okay. It's interesting. Not as bad, I just feel like you would just wait. But maybe not. I have to, right? You know I have a thing. You know, actually, I'm going to cast Pieces of the Puzzle here. Just because I want to make sure this resolves. Like, they have 4 cards. I'm assuming they have more counter spells in their hand. I'm cool with going pieces. We'll pass back. Like, I would like to draw lands at some point, but, like, it doesn't have to be now. Maybe later. Like, me just, like, cycling pieces of the puzzle, I think is fine. If I draw a land and go Thing into pieces, it's much better just because I can start threatening Thing in the Ice, which I think is important, but also I can start accruing actual cards. The 2 for 1s are nice. It takes me closer to, like, Time Warps and, yeah. I think that should be really good. I don't know what they're looking for. I think it's maybe just making sure you don't miss land drops, but they played a land already. Yeah, I don't know what's happening. I feel like I would just keep that. I feel like it just has to be good in a matchup where I'm, like, tight on lands, but maybe not. Maybe it's actually awful. We're just gonna jam pieces here. Like, I think I have 3 of those. That seems like the appropriate number. Yep, Divin Veto. That's fine. Ooh. Yeah, it's definitely a format where I'm happy Teferi doesn't exist. It'd be so bad. Obviously, they do have Big Teferi, which I'm sure they're going to cast relatively soon. Yep. But you don't have to deal with the nonsense that is Teferi Time Raveler. The card is such a beating. Okay, consider. Consider such a good card, too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're just going to go into the next end step. Yep. And they very likely have a hard counter here, but let's just go thing in the ice. Probably another, no, double white, blue. I don't know what that card is. They might have mistapped. Yeah, it's just another absorb. Yep. It's fine. We want to make sure we hit a land. This is probably going to just be land on top. No, thank goodness. I do not want that. Yeah, put that in the graveyard. Another opt. I like opt. And we will keep that on top. And play that. Okay. I'm on board. I like this. Okay, so... Oh, okay. Hall's fine. Hall's not great. I mean, none of this is good for me, but, like, it is... It's the best of a bad situation. They're probably just untap. They go to 3 mana. They could have another absorb, but I think they cast, what, 1 earlier? So they might have one of the other 2. Okay, that's pieces. They're going to consider. It's very kind of them. Resolve, that's nice. Surprising. I am just going to take... Like, I have 1 Phoenix in the bin. It's like not a lot of Phoenixes. Not a good number of them, at least. I kind of just want to take, like, Trespass, Opt, Time Warp here, and then try to rebuild better next turn. I do think they have a veto. Like, I think that's very true. But I think I'm in a bad spot anyways, and I think I'd rather just take my shots where I can. I also, like, I have, like, the iteration in the graveyard. I can just wait till next turn and try to Time Warp. I think that's better. Yeah, I also probably shouldn't have shocked you. I should have opted, but I was planning on casting the Trespass. Makes sense. So, we're opt. We'll try to hit, like, I don't want Phoenix, but I want, like, a Charter Course or something like that so I can get Phoenix in my bin. I have to take Treasure Cruise, right? Like, that's just really good for me. There's no way this resolves, but, like, let's pretend. I want to live in a world where I can draw 3 cards for 1 mana. That's not Vintage. I cannot play Vintage well. Oh, it actually worked. That's very shocking to me. I have opt. Gonna get my Phoenix back. I'll attack Teferi for 3. And I want to opt next turn, I think. They have a removal spell. Super annoying. Okay. That's fine. Okay, so we'll see what they do on their turn. So I can, like, flashback. Yeah, we're fine. Yep, they're gonna animate Hall. I'm actually gonna opt into turn because I want to find the discard spell to get Phoenix and I bin ASAP. Gonna tap the shock. They're gonna have 4 lands untapped. I think they're just trying to maximize their stuff. I don't think it means anything in particular. But I could be wrong. Yep, there's my Phoenix. Put that on top. I should be able to discard it later, but we'll see. I think the nice thing about this is, with the iteration, is that, like, if they have a counter spell, they can't counter both of my trespasses. Like, they can stop one but not both, which is huge. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. So stupid. I'll take my time stretch. 6 mana time stretch. That's fair. Okay, they have nothing they're doing. That's fine. Confusing, but fine. I'm gonna play I don't think it matters. So I just need to play a land. Do that. Okay, that's really good. I want to pieces. I get 2 turns here, right? So that's kind of annoying, but fine. I haven't played a land yet either, so blue, red. I guess it's like things should be good, but I don't think it actually is good. What am I doing? I wanna I have 20 cards. I'll do this. Yeah, do this. That's a red. I'm just casting all these spells. I'm just gonna get these all out of my hand. And then we'll go refuel with Cruise. The fact I've drawn so many cards here is just like actual madness to me. Hopefully we'll hit the last Phoenix, but we're probably not that lucky. Let's put that in our graveyard. There's a bird. So I can put them to 17 now. Next turn, I hopefully will be able to get these both in my bin. And that's another 9. Puts them to 8. I should be able to find another time warp after that. So let's see. Okay. Let's go another turn. There's a thing in the ice. Let's iteration. I like the Charter Course. I'm not in love with the land. But we'll take it anyways. I would really love if you guys would find me my other time warp. Not that lucky. Let's do 2 more. There's time warp. There's a phoenix. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Do I get this one too? They have a counter spell, they have to. I mean, like, they also could have Settle the Wreckage in the main deck. Do that every time. Is it another absorb? Yeah. Okay, that's fair. That makes sense. So I'm at a life total. Let's knock out this to fairy, and I'll hold back the phoenix to block the hall. If they have a removal spell for the phoenix, I have a removal spell for the phoenix, and I die. I feel like this game, I think I made a lot of, I got a lot further than I expected to get, so, and it didn't happen. It's kind of a free roll at this point. I also do only have 6 cards left, so like that's something I need to kind of keep in mind. That could be a problem. Okay, they pass the turn back. They do have that land. I am thinking play Thing in the Ice. I kind of just want to attack for 9 and then attack for 12. They have settle, right? Like, I'm just like dead either way. Do you have main deck settle? I can't consider and like bounce everything. That's not gonna work well in my favor. So that's just gonna happen. No. Okay. Post combat, we'll play this. We'll play Canal. Do I have I already played land? Okay. Yeah, I'm probably not winning from here. This is a tough spot. Sure. Can't really do anything. Elspeth Sun's Champion. You got it. We'll just concede there. Okay. I think post-war this matchup gets a lot better too. So like even losing game 1's not a big deal, but it's like a long match, a long game. 20 minutes. Like I said, we bring a lot of like just haymakers with each other. So I get playset of Mystical Disputes, Narset, and Jace. I get to cut a bunch of my stuff because I don't want Fire Impulses. I don't want Lightning Axes. The Flame Blast Bolts are like fine. They're not insane, but they're fine. And then I'm going to cut 1 Opt. And should be good. Actually, I want to bring in Stern Dismissal too. That was another one I was like debating. I'm cut 1 Treasure Cruise and 1 Chart, of course. So like I'm okay just like casting Phoenix here. Like if they counter it, I get to get it back. So So let's see how this goes. Yeah, I like the post-board games. I feel like Invasive Surgery should be good here, but they don't do anything sorcery speed that I care about. This looks good. Keep. Once again, we're in that awkward situation where I would really like to play Consider on 1, but I don't have like Consider into a land. It doesn't feel great, so I'll play the Coast on 1. Steam Vent Shock on 2 to play Thing in the Ice, Linking Expressive Iteration. Open up on Hall again and Consider. That's fine. Makes me feel like they're like land light. They just drew, so could be wrong, could be right. I don't know. I've been right before. I should simply play this island, play Thing. Don't necessarily need to shock them if they worry about the life total, but in case I miss on lands, I'd rather, I guess, have the option to cast a spell if I have to bolt that. It's not the greatest, but it's not the worst. You canal anyways, so it doesn't really matter. Let's Thing in the Ice. They might have a counter spell here. If they do, it's not the end of the world. They don't. I like all these cards and can't keep them, so I have Jace already. I don't really need another Jace. I don't want to get rid of it. Let's have the Thing in the Ice be the exile card. I kind of like having 2 Jaces. Yeah, I kind of like having 2 Jaces. Yep. And we'll pass. And once again, like post board, especially because I'm cutting 1-drops and like they don't have removal spells, like you just don't always have everything you want, but like that's okay. I will take that card. And let's go blue, red. Yeah, like I should be able to flip Thing in the Ice this turn. There's a Phoenix. I'll put that in my hand. Pieces I'd like to have, but I'm not going to. Pathway. Let's cast Phoenix. Discard. Go to combat, attack for 7. Like, I'm attacking for 7 on turn 3. Like, I feel pretty good. They could Wrath me here, but that's fine. If they do, I get to just untap and cast Jace, which is, like, okay with me. Yep, Verdict. You got it. And I get to... We'll do it like this. So, Jace. Yep. Jace, Wielder of Mysteries. Let's target myself. And that'll be enough for let me Treasure Cruise for 1 mana. I don't know if I need to, though. I mean, like, I got enough stuff going on. And this makes it look like I have Dispute. So we'll just use this. I don't need to draw a bunch of cards right now. Also, that lets me, next turn, just get my Phoenix back really easily. So I'm okay with that. I don't know if they have anything to, like, deal with. Yeah. Yep. Let's target myself again. Like, these are ops, unfortunately not. Yeah, there's a Dispute gone. It's opt. One thing I just want to find. It's on the bottom. I like that card. I haven't played a land yet. Yeah, I'll do that. I just want to make sure I find a Dispute here. They're going to counterspell this, probably. Sure, it's fine. And that should be my 3rd. Let's do this. I'm going to cast Thing in the Ice. And we'll cast Treasure Cruise. Once again, this puts me shields down, but I think that's okay. Just because I'm presenting so much right now. Yep. Okay, not bad. Narset next turn is going to be huge. Huge. Once again, I feel a lot safer having the second Jace in hand. Like, that's one of those issues where, like, they can Detention Sphere your Jace on, like, the last possible turn. So you kind of have to, like, combo off with Jace from, like, 15 cards or something like that to not really worry about it. Yep, Verdict is fine. Do not mind that. Mystical Dispute is huge. Let's target myself with Jace first. In case this changes anything. No. Still one Phoenix, all that fun stuff. And I have enough blue sources. I can kind of do whatever I want here. Let's cast Narset. Dig. Impulse, right? They're casting Consider and Response, so I don't blame them. I would like... Yeah, I'd like Trespass. I think I just... One, two... I think I just cast Trespass. I tapped out. Blue. I can do this, I believe myself. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'll take another turn. I think that's sweet. Cool. Target myself. What would matter is if I Impulse and then Jace, or if I Jace and Impulse. I don't think it really matters. Like, I would have liked Pieces of the Puzzle. I don't really want this Phoenix, but, like, I think that was going to happen either way. Here's a Trespass again. Galvanic Iteration I want to. It's annoying. But we'll take this. How do I want to do this? I don't want that. I do want that gone. Put that away. I don't really want that. God, did I play land this turn? I've done so many things this turn, I have no idea. Let's assume I have not. No. I haven't, that's good. I did. Yeah, I messed that up. I should have put in the graveyard because I'm short of land now. I need the mana. That's fine. No, I should do one piece of the puzzle as well. And, yeah. That seems fine. Not insane. It could be better. I could have done more. And, I guess we'll pass. Probably need to discard a couple cards. Canal seems easy. I don't think it matters. Let's get rid of that. Okay. Alright. Are they gonna wrath me again? They're gonna new their own Narset. I think I'm gonna counter that. I think if they have their own dispute, I don't think it really matters, but definitely shuts the door a little bit. Let's target. Okay, I can draw 7, but that doesn't do exactly what I want it to do anyways. Another Phoenix. I like Phoenix. Here's a piece of the puzzle. put opt pieces again. Play an island. I think I'm just gonna go 1, 2, 3. Is that good enough, opponent? Did I do it? Are you proud of me? Look at me now, Dad. Let's put that at the bottom, I guess. This should be lethal, right? Like, they're not winning this at all. I'm gonna attack with everything. I probably should have held one back, I guess. But what happens? Got it. Got it, Chief. Yeah, well, good thing I didn't hold one back. I mean, I would have killed them in my time warp turn, but it's fine. Okay. Yeah, and I think this matchup post-board is like so much better. Like, it's like I definitely improve a lot more than they improve. Yeah, just run this back. And like I definitely I think having the treasure cruisers are nice, but usually when you need the treasure cruiser, you're like way behind anyways. And time warp is just better. So. Alright. Probably not a keep. We'll probably just mulligan that. This looks pretty good though. I'm not sure if they... I want to put the Stern Dismissal back, I guess. Like one of the cards I was waiting for was them to play the Deafening Silence, and they just like don't have it. So I don't know if they actually do have it, and I'm just missing it, or if they just don't have it. I don't think they have it, because I think that especially the last two games have just been such long games that if they did have it, it would have popped up. I mean, like arguably in the second to last game, that they might have felt like they were so far behind it didn't matter, and they didn't want to show it to me. But I don't know. I have trouble believing that. Let's just cast. Maybe I don't even cast it. Maybe I don't cast it. I don't think I care that much right now. We'll just pass. Like I do want to try to find a discard spell, but I also like rather be able to loot away my Phoenixes. Mystical Dispute is nice. So even if this gets countered, which I think it's going to, at least have the dispute. Yep, absorb. Perfectly fine. Once again, having the second there is really, really nice. Okay, so we'll get to do the same thing again, just iteration. I get to hold up dispute this time. Not that I'm going to dispute anything. Like, I don't want to deal with that Teferi next turn. I'm a liar. I'm going to cast this Narset. If they have a counter spell, they're going to counter it. I'm okay absorbing this. It's just so annoying for them. Like, them having Teferi here, it's like so bad. Just because I have Narset and they can't get rid of it. I'll take another dispute. Thank you. Thank you. Cool. I'm on board. Let's do this first. I guess we'll take the consider. It's probably too early to be taking trespass, but it just means it's going to be at the bottom of my deck, which is not ideal. But we'll take that. Expressive iteration. Put the Phoenix in hand. Steam Vents. We will put this in play tapped. And pass. I'm okay with this. a turn. Shark Typhoon? Shark Typhoon would be very good. It looks like a Shark Typhoon. Is it dig through time? No. Yeah, we're not doing that. That's a very easy way to lose a game. I think I might just hold the consider for my turn. We'll see. Maybe they just jam. Oh no, buddy. Don't do that. Oh no. Oh, buddy. I'm so sorry. Maybe they're trying to fuel dig. That can't be right. Oh no. Okay. Let's chart, discard Phoenix, Kazakh Breath of Iteration, put Dispute in hand. I really want Iteration, but I can't obviously take that. We'll consider, put the land in the graveyard, we'll draw. We will shock. I don't think there's a reason not to. I'd rather just hold up Dispute. I think I arguably should have just cast it, right? But I think I'm okay. I need to play a little faster too. I don't know how they're winning, but I feel like it's not. Threading reasonable. Oh, they're just. I don't know what they're doing. I think they're just tilting off, honestly, but I don't know. Let's just play this. Yep. I think we'll post-combat. Chart of course next turn. Let's see, on the Wrath. Fine, you got it. Yep. I guess in this case we will pre-combat. Discard. Consider. Literally anything, please. Put that in the graveyard. Iteration. Got it. Did I play land this turn? I can't play that anyways. Oh, I can. Yep. Let's chart myself. Great. I think I just play this. Attack for 9, hold up Dispute. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, they were just tilting off at the end. I think they could have, I guess, made it competitive at least if they weren't cycling into Narset. I think it had to be intentional. Like the first time, maybe it's an accident. The second time feels like it was just being mad Narset exists, which I definitely get. Narset is real annoying. Okay, so let's see if we can finish up this league. Yeah, I'm glad people are watching now because the first couple I did were like brutal. Like it was not good for me. And like it seems like I turned it around now that people are aware of this. So I play against this person all the time, and I like do not remember what they're actually playing. Just like never clicks. Let's just do this and pass. Okay, that's fine. We're gonna opt just to try to hit another land here. JK Lowell. Now we're just gonna take that card. Be greedy. Let's just play Thing in the Ice. If it got counter, I get counter, but like having iteration makes you feel pretty safe. Yeah. Dies instead, that's totally fine. We'll try them. Also, like, not fetching is interesting. Definitely want that. So I think we go chart, opt, coast, play coast, pass. We can consider end of their turn. Not sure what they're doing. Like, this is one of those decks that, like, they're doing stuff. Like, I'm assuming it's gonna resolve in a end of Mizet, but like literally no idea. I don't think they know. I think they're just trying to guess. Consider I just want literally any land. Yep, nope, that's mine. It's gonna jam this. Nope, no counter spell, of course. Just take opt and consider. Play this land tapped. Discard impulse, because that does not seem like it's going anywhere. One thing, we haven't hit a Phoenix yet. They're just F6ing through their turn. It's good for us, probably. Let's just go like this. Another pieces, which will probably hit. Nope, never mind. We'll take both, I guess. I don't know. No one matters. I'm just gonna keep maximizing my mana here. Like, they're not doing anything, I'm not doing anything. I'd rather just keep hitting land drops. Discard opt, I guess. Like, I want to keep the one axe. They're not, I don't know what they're doing. Yep, you got it. Yep. Okay, let's do the same thing we've been doing for the past few turns. My gosh. I guess I'll take that. I don't know. Just like, I kind of just want to time walk here just to time walk here, but that seems unnecessary. Let's just chart a course. Hopefully we hit a Phoenix. There's a bird. Bird. Shock. Play consider. Hopefully this is another bird. No. Let's put in the bin. Attack for 3, I guess. Nobody minds. What are you doing? What is this? Vanishing Verse. Sure, you got it. Discard another axe. Why not? Yep. I have 24 cards in my graveyard. I had 1 Phoenix. So things are happening. Yeah, the iteration to trespass is going to be, I think, just enough time for me to set up, because I actually will be able to trespass and then treasure cruise in the same turn. So double time warp, treasure cruise, seems decent. You got Niv. Sure, you tapped out. Like an idiot. They're looking at 1 billion cards. I think about 1 billion. What did they hit? 1, 2. Celestius, I don't know what that is. Barely care. So they did not hit particularly well. And no Shin Thief they took. So they just got those 2 cards. That's medium. Yeah, let's do stupid stuff. Blue, red. Blue, blue, blue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hope no one's minds that I take 2 turns. Hopefully not a big deal. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'll draw 3 cards. There we go. Let's play a land. Oh, nope, that's not what I want. Definitely not what I want. I want this. I'm gonna do stupid stuff real quick. I just want a burn spell so I can finish that off. That's another trespass. And a chart of course. It's fine. Red. Blue. Discard Phoenix. Consider. Put that in my graveyard. I kind of just want to like get rid of it. That's my last Phoenix, right? Like I don't have any more. So we're just gonna wait. Yep, there's 2 Phoenixes. Because I want finishing burst. Cool. Discard. Pay red. Discard Phoenix. Cool. Take 3. Let's go to the next turn. I have so many cards. I'm gonna flash back a time this thing so I can time warp again. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Great. And they concede. Because they're dead to basically anything at this point. Yep. That was reasonable. Yeah, just a 5-mana time stretch and a 6-mana time stretch. That game was fair. We both did the thing. I'm proud of us both. I'm gonna take Jace. I don't think I want Narset, but I like Mystical Dispute. And Aether Gust. And I don't like small removal spells. I don't really like Lightning Axe, honestly, but I think it's fine. Cut 2 ops, cut a chart of course, and we should be gooch. Okay. Yeah, North I feel like it should be good, and then you actually play it and it's like not ever good, which is like very upsetting. I definitely wish it was better. Yep. Let's go. It's fine. Simply the shocked. They need a red source later, and I want to play everything else as blue, so kind of disguises it at least. Like I definitely have the opt, right? They know that, but spot. I wouldn't mind finding, I don't need another land right now. I wouldn't mind finding a counterspell though. That's not bad. It's a good tempo play at least. Like it keeps the game from getting wildly out of control. I think it's important. Yeah, no. No. You get to, no. You put that on top. I think they probably have their land drop, but if they don't have their land drop, it's insane. And we're going to use our mana a little bit more effectively here. So we're actually going to tap out for that. Missed, but we get double consider. Like, not the worst. It's a good consolation prize. They played their land, which is interesting. What are they casting? Oh, Slaughter Games. Okay, cool. Yeah, Slaughter Games, name Arclight Phoenix. Which I could have, like, if I held up Aether Gust, I would have been able to gust it. But, like, I'm fine with this. So I think on our turn, we're just going to go Expressive Iteration. Try to hit another land. If not, we have, once again, the other land kind of rolled up, so it's not a big deal. But I just want to make sure we're not missing land drops here. Oh, it's super annoying. I like all these cards. We already have another pieces, so we don't really need another pieces. We'll take the Trespass. I think we exile the... Yeah, I think we exile the pieces. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. We'll play that Pathway, and then we'll pass. We'll see what they do. Like, they could tap out for... Doesn't look like they're going to tap out. Looks like they're going to jam another 4-drop here. No. Do I care? Kind of. Once again, I'm just like very okay with what we're doing right now. I don't know how happy they are, but like I'm very much up on cards. There are 3 cards. I'm at 6, up to 7. They have a spell. Oh, yeah, sure. You are in, which doesn't do anything. That's like one of my questions. Like I feel like I'm missing something about that card. Because it just doesn't. It literally doesn't do anything. No, we want that. I'm actually okay just casting Time Warp here just to explore. Like me just being ahead on lands I think is actually meaningful. Blue, 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 blue. Great. Get another turn. Another crack at the apple. I would like to chart a course. I want to find... Oh, there's another Trespass. That makes sense. To get rid of that. Cast Consider. Yeah, put that in the graveyard. There's a land that I wanted. We'll cast another piece of the puzzle. I'll take both of these cards. Would have preferred to keep the hall, but like, what are you gonna do? And we're done with my turn 6. They can go to their turn 6. I can cast Trespass next turn very easily. Like, I think I can actually cast. I could be wrong too. Yep, you got it, Chief. I should just go Iteration, Consider, Trespass. What are we doing? What are we doing? Nahiri. Cool. Great card. It's like one of the cards that makes sense. It just like doesn't ever do what I think it should do. I like Thing in the Ice. I like Thing in the Ice. I like Thing in the Ice a lot, actually. I would like to consider... I'm going to put that in my hand. Yeah, I'm gonna put that in my hand. I take back literally everything I just said. Red, blue. Let's trespass. So dumb. Like, who lets people play with this card? I'll take my double time warp. I'm gonna play this thing in the ice, this thing in the ice. I'm gonna play this. Yeah, I'm just gonna take this. Let's take a land for now, take a land for later. I'm gonna shock. Play this opt. Let's put this on the bottom. I just like unbelievable. And that's my, I don't have any more time warps, right? I used the other one, yeah. So I guess we'll just cast a Jace now. It feels irresponsible, but it probably is. Target myself. Another thing in the ice. Blue, red. Hit a 1-drop. Treasure Cruise, I guess we'll have to settle for that. It's reasonable. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Man. Hall of the Storm Giants. I could dome them for 14, but I think I'm just gonna get Nahiri off the board. Shoot them to 11. That was reasonable. That was a fair game. That was good. They get to take their turn 7. I just finished my turn 9. That's reasonable. That's ridiculous. This deck's stupid. I just like don't know why I don't play this deck. They tapped out for Teferi and like, or Nahiri and like lost. Which like I'm all about, but like. Okay. Opponent, what are you doing? Bring to light, sure. Yeah, like I wish I had the extra mana up. But what are you gonna do? Like I could have just played the Steam Vents. Probably just better. Yep. Sure, that makes sense. Pretty good. That is definitely mea culpa. Let's target myself. There's another Jace. I know what's in my deck. I think so. I think I just win here. Oh, I need to blue, red. Cast Consider. I think I get to put this in the graveyard, draw, cast this, put this in the graveyard, draw, yeah, yep. Let me shock just in case. Pay a blue. So we're gonna note that I exiled 44 cards this game, or 40 cards this game. Like this is so dumb. So dumb. Alright, well, 3-2. 3-0 on stream at least. That's cool. And we're done with the league. I actually need to get to bed. I need to do a lot of stuff before I go to sleep. So let's do this. Let me go back to Magic Online. I was like opening the pack, especially when it's like one pack. I just feel like you get real lucky. So open this to see what we get. We've been 2 Teferis in the past 2 days, so hopefully it's the 3rd Teferi. That'd be ridiculous. Small play points at least. Probably 5 play points and 2 cards. Ooh, a Modern Horizons 2-pack. That's not bad. I don't know how much they go for, actually. Let me check real quick. Like, that's not bad. It's not a bad crack. Like, honestly, I might just open it, just because I'm a monster. Modern Horizons 2. I mean, it looks like a booster pack, right? I don't even look, really. It's kind of pumped. Is it a set booster, or is it a... Do they have set boosters? They don't have set boosters online, do they? Right? Doesn't make any sense. Yeah, it's a booster. Okay. It's 6 ticks. That's not terrible. But it's not as good value as just opening the pack. EV7, actually? Is that serious? EV of opening the pack is... Okay. This is stupid. This is a terrible idea. Well, tabletop. Tabletop, it's 7. So it's probably a little less. I mean, we're still doing it. Like, it's definitely the responsible move. So let's crack this open. Fingers crossed. Yep. I'm very sure, I guess. I don't know. Fingers crossed, fingers crossed, fingers crossed. Something stupid, something stupid. Come on, monkey, come on, monkey. The slow roll of my computer is actually really nice. Because it could be like Endurance, Solitude. Dragon's actually not bad. I actually need a dragon. I think dragon's like $25 too. Nah, terrible. Thirst the Premises. Yeah, it's not what you want. Unholy Heat. Abundant Harvest. Yeah, Search the Premises. Not great. But still fun. Cool. Alright, well, I need to do so much stuff, so I'm going to get out of here. But thank you for joining me. Thank you for hanging out. Much appreciated. I am going to do the pitch one last time because I feel like I have to. If you are following the stream and you're enjoying yourself, you're having a good time, please make sure you follow the stream. That way, next time I go live, you know that I am here on Magic Online playing games, either Legacy or Modern or Pioneer. I'm definitely going to get back on this week and play the Mana Traders event because they're playing Legacy this month, and I want to make sure we qualify for that. So I'm going to play that. But yeah, just make sure you follow me on Twitter as well at BadLuckBandit. I do a podcast called the Dark Depths Podcast. You can follow the Dark Depths Podcast at Depths_podcast on Twitter. If you want to support us in any way, all of our links are on our bio on Dark Depths. Also, my co-host Michael Mapson, Expedition Map on Twitter, is normally hanging out with me, but he's preoccupied tonight, so he's not around. But make sure you give him a follow as well. Okay, I'm gonna go. I'll see ya. Have a great night. Farewell.